How do I start these? Do I say welcome? Is that what I say?
I don't know. We normally have cold
Yeah.
opens.
hmm All right. Welcome to Your Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends circling the drain of academia examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
And I'm Ethan.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going wonderful, Devin. Golden
hmm
age. Loving
Definitely.
every minute of it. Good thing that we recorded this when we did, because if not, I mean, there's no telling any given day of the week what wars are happening, which genocides are starting or
The price
recommencing.
of
It's
gas,
price of
am I
gas.
right?
Yeah. Yay.
Which like CNN's homepage will make you think is the most important thing that's going on right now.
I mean, it costs me
Um,
hundreds of dollars to fill up my F-150 every morning. That
every
I drive
morning.
it in
Yeah.
circles around the city just to make good use of the fact that
To
I bought a truck.
trigger people.
Yeah, to trigger the libs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
hmm
yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's we're not going to sugarcoat it, folks. It's rough out there, right? Since our Oscars episode, things have somehow gotten even worse, and they continue to get worse. And
yeah.
you know what that calls for, Ethan?
I think I know what you're gonna say, Devin.
Yeah, a little summer vacation, right?
Absolutely.
School's out for summer. Canvas has been hacked. There's no grades anymore.
Hell yeah.
Everybody gets an A, and we are going on summer vacation with we're excited. This is a new structure to the pod where we're doing these different mini series throughout the year as opposed to kind of just the random episodes, right? And
Hmm.
so this is all going to be leading up to the big film of the summer, Chris
Yeah.
Nolan taking on the original summer vacation with the Odyssey. But we've got a lot of really interesting films queued up.
Yeah.
And honestly, as goofy as a premise as this miniseries was, I think we've really in these episodes gotten into how the American spirit, if you will, the
Yeah.
soul of this declining empire
Hmm.
really is just like a petulant, tourist
Yeah.
that is annoyed that they aren't on vacation
Hmm.
or that they are, right? It's like
Mm.
neither is good, right? It's
Hmm.
get me back to America or it's get me out of here. It's
Yeah.
why I want to go to all these places and I want them to be exactly the same. I want to have these kind of prepackaged experiences, right? And so what is a piece of American cultural detritus if not just the very concept of the summer vacation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's an extremely self-centered aspect too, right? Like you just said, everything bad that's happening is not because me on the vacation is making it bad. And anything stopping me from going on my vacation is everyone else's fault. It really falls nicely
Yeah.
into the self-centeredness. The idea that like I'm going on this journey that I would name it after myself. I'm gonna
Yeah,
Odysseus this situation. It fits in
definitely.
nicely with some broader things that I think we are seeing in the rapidly declining fall of the American Empire.
I mean, Odysseus was obviously Greek, but he was also definitely American, right? Because
Hmm.
what is more American than going on vacation and
Yeah.
somebody tells you, hey, there's these really awesome women singers and they kick ass, but if you do hear them, you will die. And what's more American than hearing about that and saying, I'm going to figure out a way to hear it?
Yeah. And I
And
want
it's
to,
going to
yeah.
involve all of my fucking laborers, having to to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, well, because that's what the Odyssey really is. It's not so much like Odysseus was on a work trip, right? And
Yeah,
then decides to make it a vacation of coming back home and makes it everyone else's problem too.
definitely,
And then when he comes
definitely.
back, he also makes it additional people's problem. So it's
hmm
just yeah, very American at heart.
That's really what you see happening in the Odyssey, which is, one of the oldest works of literature in existence, is a world that had the work trip, right? It had like the concept of traveling for war, right? You
Yeah.
see out of the ashes of the work trip, the spirit of summer vacation being invented, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we continue to interrogate this concept leading up to the Chris Nolan film that we're, of course, begrudgingly excited at least to talk about, if not to see. We'll see
Yeah.
on that. So we're starting off, of course, in the episode that you'll be hearing today with National Lampoon's Vacation, which I'm assuming is the basis for the Odyssey based on the discussion we ended up having about it.
Yeah, no, I think so. It is a really move aside all the other films adaptations of the Odyssey. This is, I think, really captures but it captures the Odyssey through like a very boomer lens, right? And I think
Yes.
we dig
Yes.
into this idea of how it's such a perfect encapsulation of the boomer mentality. Like if Odysseus, beyond being American, was an American boomer, how might the Odyssey have unfolded?
Definitely. And then in our next episode of the series, we have Jourdain Searles talking about Paris, Texas. A more serious film, a more kind of like arty film than we usually do. But I
National
really think
Lampoon's Paris,
Paris,
Texas.
Texas. But I really think, as you'll hear when that episode comes out, Paris, Texas is the photo negative of National Lampoon's Vacation. They are
Yeah.
exactly the same movie with just like, that meme where it's like the two sides of the bus where it's like the sad kid and like the
Yeah.
happy kid. It's
Yeah.
like that. It's like that's National Lampoon's is the happy kid, and then Paris, Texas is the sad one. Of the
Yes, definitely.
same journey into like the heart of America, right?
Yep, absolutely. But then, Devin, I feel like we've been focused a bit too much on thinking through the American lens for the Odyssey and summer vacation. Let's instead think through maybe a fantastical lens, maybe like a turn of the century British lens, or more aptly, oh shit, it actually is Americanism again, because what is the result of this product, if not really reflective of the American spirit or lack thereof? We're gonna go follow Bilbo Baggins' journey with the Hobbit trilogy, and oh boy, those three
Yeah.
films that we watched. Oh,
It really captured my experience of watching those, really captured, I think, one of the quintessential summer vacation affects, which is that, those last couple days where you're like, man, I just really can't wait to go home and like play with my toys,
yeah, I'm
sit at my
tired of this.
computer.
Yeah,
I want to take a
yeah.
shower with like all of my normal products.
Yeah, it speaks to this idea of a summer vacation outside of just the plot, but in terms of like going on a vacation, which is the Lord of the Rings series followed by the Hobbit series, and how that becomes um undone by the end of it all. And so I think that's an interesting encapsulation of that sort of. It's sort of like Odysseus with Peter Jackson, like tempting the gods of being like, nobody
Yeah.
can possibly stop me from making a fantastic adaptations of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Definitely. Well, especially right because the fact that he wasn't supposed to do the Hobbits and then had to, right? It's like him making Lord of the Rings is the Iliad, and then he's like, time to go home, and it's like, nope, buddy, you've got to make
Yeah.
three more movies.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this will be the
Oh,
easy part. It's the Hobbit adaptation, but oh
yeah.
no. Yeah.
And of course, we're joined by your wife, Katie, on that episode.
Yeah, and she will get us into maybe the more important aspects, which is about how everyone was fucking on that set.
Yeah.
Um, there are rumors of such, I suppose I should say.
I think
Um,
they're pretty substantiated rumors. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
yeah,
and then we've got, before getting to the Odyssey, we've got a couple more episodes that we haven't actually recorded yet, right? But
yeah,
excited for those. We're going to the land of Japan. right? Which of course has
Wow.
existed in the American imaginary in a unique cultural way for some time.
Yeah.
And my pseudonymous girlfriend Slug will be
Hmm.
joining us to talk about Miyazaki's Spirited Away.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Haven't watched
Yeah.
it yet, so we'll
I mean,
see.
it's about a spa, so
Hmm.
like one of the it's about a hotel essentially, right? So really getting into the hotel of it all, I imagine. And of course, Slug is a very skilled artist and illustrator, so I'll be very excited to hear her thoughts about, Miyazaki's great animation, whatnot. And we'll somehow
Yeah.
find a way to make Miyazaki's like quintessentially Japanese, understated, sort of fantastical and whimsical aesthetic. Uh,
Yeah.
we will somehow find a way to make that about American chauvinism and
Oh yeah. And I mean,
capitalism.
and these days we don't even have to go on the odyssey of creating a film like Spirited Away, because my understanding is you can use AI to simply make films that look just like Spirited Away, right? That are in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
vein. Yeah.
We should start a Patreon and raise money to make a Miyazaki style remake of National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah.
Well, it'll only use like, like about Luxembourg's, total energy output
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
year.
And it'll look like such ass. It'll be every dollar will be wasted in that endeavor. And it'll be really yellow for some reason. Just everything will
Yeah.
be tinted yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, terrible time. So we've got that coming up. And then to really round it out, we have Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Now, Devin, you probably don't know this. I'm going to blow your mind. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is actually a loose adaptation of Homer's Odyssey.
Wait. So that means by transitive property, it's also a remake of National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh. But yeah, we
Uh,
obviously had to do this one, right?
mhm.
And it'll be good because it'll kind of like finally, give us a taste of what exactly the Odyssey is so that we can understand the Chris Nolan movie. Because I
Yeah.
assume all the dialogue will be really like mumbly and we won't actually understand what anyone's saying. And who's joining us for that one, Ethan?
Joining us for that episode is Andrew Bryant, fantastic musician, and we figured, given the musical undertones of Oh Brother, he's just going to be a fantastic guest to dig deeper into that aspect of that film. So
Definitely. And not just a
uh,
musician, but a Mississippi musician, right? So
absolutely,
we
yes,
can
yeah,
really get into the delta of it all, right?
yeah,
Which, of
yep,
course, for those of you who don't know, Ethan used to live in Mississippi. So should be an
yeah,
interesting, sort of vacation for Ethan back to his old haunts, as it were. So yeah, that's
yes.
the miniseries, of course, being capped at the end with Nolan's Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And any final words for the listeners, Ethan, before they join us on our summer vacation?
No, I think just like any summer vacation, come along. We'll have a great time. We will take on the emotional burden of doing things like watching 3 Hobbit films. Like, it's like you're going on vacation and someone has already planned the events for you, right? You
Yeah,
just get to
yeah.
show up, enjoy yourself, have a lovely time, let everyone else be miserable. So that's Devin and I who had to power through a bit of downs, who got to enjoy some more interesting films as well. And I think it really, I'm going to be really curious when we come to the end of it, when we reach Wally World and see the Odyssey. What's the payoff going to be? Is it just going to be is it going to be shut down at the end when
Mm,
we arrive, or is it going to
yeah.
be a beautiful payoff? I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited
Hmm.
to kind of, because we're on the summer vacation right now, so I'm curious where it's all
Definitely.
going to end.
Well, I think I couldn't say it better myself. So, listeners, enjoy vacation, and please also enjoy our new theme song for this mini series by none other than my co-host Ethan. You're tall, but I'm standing in front of you.
It's a podcast.
So here we are in the first episode of our summer vacation miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a film that needs no introduction and needs really no justification for being in this series.
Yeah.
Harold Ramis's National Lampoon's Vacation.
Absolutely. Screenplay by John Hughes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, starring Chevy Chase. 1983. Real set of in their prime comedy heavy hitters. I think. I don't know exactly when Chevy Chase's prime was.
Yeah, I feel like, well, this was sort of a comeback for Chevy Chase, actually. It sort of showed that he still
That
got
makes
it.
sense.
Right?
Because he's like 40 in this.
Is he 40? I thought he was in his 30s, probably.
38 to 40.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, I could see that.
And as a 36-year-old, that seems like, you're a bit over the hill.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's a long, slow road to nothingness. But it's also for John Hughes, I think, earlier in his career because, and we can chat about this later, but he wrote this, and it's based off of an earlier piece he wrote for the National Lampoon magazine.
Wow.
But he then we can talk about it, but he is sort of disillusioned a bit with how this turned out, and then went and was like, well, I'm just gonna make my own fucking movies after this. So it's not actually, I think, early for him. Harold Ramis.
Although I gotta put a little bit of a correction to that, just because I do want to point out that he also wrote National Lampoon's European Vacation and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, so he wrote Christmas Vacation too?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At least partially. Nope. Yeah, entirely. So
okay. Yeah. Well, fat check.
I'm just saying, as he was saying, fuck this, he was also like, oh no, of course I'll come back.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, that went off kilter immediately, but 1983's Vacation.
And we're at the beginning of our own vacation, Ethan. We're at the beginning of our own journey. So we don't quite know what conclusions we're going to reach by the end of this series, what we're going to have learned about what it means to, go on a vacation, to truly get off the grid, as Odysseus did. But unlike Odysseus, as who was just kind of like enjoying his time away from his wife and kid and all of his responsibilities.
Hell yeah.
Clark Griswold, as he puts it in Vacation, says, this is no longer a vacation, it's a quest.
Yes.
So this is, unlike most of the movies in our series, I think, are going to end up being, this is really not strictly a movie about vacationing. It's mostly a movie about questing.
Yeah, and similar to Odysseus, just to finish the quote that Clark Griswold, he says, this is no longer a vacation, it is a quest for fun. And, that's, and what is the Odyssey if not a quest for fun? So yeah, that's this is National Lampoon's Vacation. Don't be Googling too much about National Lampoon, because it might come up in our later our Vox Populi segment, Devin. But what's your thoughts on National Lampoon as an establishment?
I mean, I know vaguely, right? It's like the Harvard Comedy Magazine originally. Right.
That's really fucking up the question I had later, but okay. Yeah.
I don't know much about, honestly, the history of how it goes from that to making movies. But, I associate it with just the movies, really. So it's like Vacation. I've never actually seen Animal House, and I'm kind of opposed to seeing Animal House, to be honest. But with that one, and then unfortunately, growing up when I did Van Wilder, a movie I that was on TV. I actually don't think it's a terrible movie, but it was on Comedy Central like every 15 minutes when I was growing up. And so
Yeah, yeah.
whenever it would come on, I would be like I would just have Comedy Central on in the background while I was doing other shit, and then Van Wilder would come on and I would be like, "Oh, fuck this. I have to change to like Cartoon Network or something." You know.
Isn't that crazy that like Ryan Reynolds, him now is like he's like a whole different human being. Like his personality when that film
Mhm.
came out, the idea that he's like this
Yeah.
party or what, I don't know. It just seems
If you had
very
told me during that time that Van
yeah.
Wilder was coming on
Yeah.
television, that guy was going to play the Green Lantern, Deadpool, and represent Mint Mobile, I would have lost it.
Yeah, I would have only gotten 1 for 3 of that. So that is interesting how that turned out. So yeah,
So did
National
you see
Lampoon's
this as a
Vacation.
kid?
This film,
Was this like a movie for you in your childhood at all?
I wouldn't say it was like a central movie. It wasn't like my dad, and let's be clear, it would be the dad. My dad didn't sit us down and like watch Vacation, but I know I saw it growing up. I was familiar with the film, but it wasn't like a centerpiece of my upbringing. What about you?
Oh man, this movie was huge for my family growing up. I got to be honest. And it's not even that I like this film that much now, but
Mhm.
it was one of those films that just was part of our like family vocabulary, you know?
Ah, okay.
Um,
Mhm.
so we watched all of them. I've seen all of them, and until rewatching this, hadn't seen any since I was a kid. Like, you know, I've
Yeah.
never seen any in high definition. You know what I mean? It's like
Uh-huh.
only like literally like a VHS, you know, from 48-hour video growing up. But
Yeah.
this, like, we would always joke that my dad was Chevy Chase. My dad, of course, former guest on the
Hmm.
podcast and star of Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Um, because
Yeah.
like we would often have this phenomenon of like the vacation that goes wrong, right? Like I remember, I'll just tell two quick anecdotes, and if we can cut them if they're too self indulgent. But I famously remember we had this one vacation to like the Jersey Shore, and my dad just wants to leave a day early because he's like, "Oh, I want to beat all the traffic." And he's like, but it's like we didn't have a hotel until the next night, and he's like, it doesn't matter, but they'll make room for us." Like in classic boomer fashion, like I can
Yeah.
talk myself into anything, even like the
Yeah.
existence of rooms that don't exist. And of
Yeah.
course, there were no rooms available. He went from hotel to hotel. We finally found a place with vacancy. My dad goes in, and the guy like gives him a rate that's very high. And my dad's like, he's trying to rip me off. Leaves. We drive around for 2 more hours. He gives up, goes back to that guy, and the room is gone. You know,
That's
and we
incredible.
ended up staying that night in a at a university like hotel school because they had like hotel
Wow.
rooms in the college so that like the hotel management students could practice.
That's incredible.
And it was like all five of us to a room, right? Um,
Oh man, save that for the vacation reboot. That would be Jersey Vacation. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Definitely. So we would always call him Chevy Chase. There was another thing on that trip where he there was some hotel that we were walking by on the boardwalk, and they had like a pool that was right on the boardwalk, and he wanted to go to it, and we were like, "Dad, you can't do that. We're not guests in the hotel." And he's like, "Oh no, I'm just gonna act real natural, and nothing will happen." And he had like a giant thing of boardwalk kettle corn, and he goes into the lobby and is trying to like lead us to this pool. He immediately trips and flies the popcorn everywhere. And then like
Oh.
I remember like my sister and I looked at each other and said like we're not with him and left.
Wow, you even got the
Ugh.
slapstick. This
Yeah,
is
no, it was
perfect, man.
crazy. So
That's
so we
incredible.
would always watch these movies, I think, and just feel very seen by them. We were like, "Oh,
Okay.
this is our life," you know. And so it was
Yeah.
very interesting rewatching this and realizing what was the like ideology of the world that like
Yeah.
mainstream Hollywood comedies were telling me was normal, you know?
Yeah. No, but that's incredible because like my dad would be like, "Oh, you're going down to Florida to visit your mom's family. I'm just not going to go with you." So this is interesting, different sort of perspectives and how it plays
Yeah.
out here. But this, yeah, I think
Some of us are an Odysseus, and some of us are
we're
whoever stays behind in the Odyssey. I don't know yet because we haven't seen Chris Nolan's The Odyssey yet, but
yeah,
I will. I will educate myself.
twists and turns upcoming. Well, where do we begin with National Lampoon's Vacation? Probably where the film begins, as we typically do a plot summary. Um, so, I mean, it's pretty self explanatory. They are going on a vacation. But the very
Yeah.
first
And
scene
they
is
is
with,
Clark Griswold
yeah, I mean, we,
and his
come on.
family.
Yeah, and it's like Clark Griswold has become almost like a mythical character, I feel like, in American culture, right?
Yeah.
Um,
He's like
and
Johnny Appleseed for neoliberalism.
yeah, pretty much. But the film immediately opens with him. He's getting a car that he's going to use for the the trip he's going on. He's buying a
Yeah.
new car.
Yeah, like any
Um,
Odyssey, it begins with you've got to get your
yeah.
steed or your
Mm-hmm.
chariot or whatever it is they use to get around in the Odyssey. Again, I don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Haven't
Now,
seen the
Devin,
movie. It's not out
great,
yet.
great connections. You're really tying it all together. So they have like a station wagon. He bought some new fancy car, but then he essentially gets conned into buying a disgusting, like lime green with
Yeah.
wood paneling station wagon.
And did you notice who he gets conned by?
Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy. Like that's got to be pretty early for him, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least in terms of movies. I mean, his first role is in 1971, technically as Coffee Boy, but he's not really in anything. He's only in six movies before this, even though it's 1983 and his first movie was 71. So it's not. He's at less than a movie a year, you know.
Yeah. No, there's a lot. There seems like there's a good number of the sort of the improv. Like there's him, John Candy shows up in this.
Hmm.
Obviously, Chevy Chase started on SNL, so it seems like they get some
Yeah,
of those folks popping up in this film. So
yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the car is one of my favorite parts of the movie, right? I think it
Okay.
is so important to what makes this movie work to the extent it does is so reliant on the fact that that green wooden paneled station wagon is simultaneously so ugly and so beautiful, you know? Because if they were
Mm-hmm.
just driving in a fucking Nissan Altima the whole
Yeah.
movie, all of that footage of the car, there's so much footage of the car on the road, right? And there's
Yeah.
so many like visual gags with the car just like falling
Yeah.
apart and stuff. And if you were watching like an uninteresting car, that stuff would be so lame. So really like the car trade-in scene unlocks the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was also thinking how it's amazing how buying a car is still sort of like that these days.
Yeah.
Um, so except impossible to afford. So that's, I guess, the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
one difference.
Yeah, well the
Um,
idea that you could kind of just like trade in your old car, get a new one, a guy who it's not really clear he even has that much money. This is kind of just a seamless. This
yeah,
is just like, you're on the boomer conveyor belt. You're just going
exactly.
from
Well,
the car to the nicer car, the house to the nicer house.
abs. And let's just let's bump along to like they take their shitty new car to his house, which is you know, it's like the Simpson syndrome, right? Like the idea that if Homer Simpson existed like these days, he couldn't afford that fucking house. Um,
Mhm.
they have a very nice home compared
In the
to any
Chicago
millennial.
suburbs, just to situate us spatially, right?
Yes, as is tradition, it is a Hughes film. So they take it back there to the home and they're talking about their trip. What did you think of the the Atari map? They bring up like an
Oh,
app,
that was
like a
weird. Yeah, that was actually one of the weirdest, and I had no memory of that. But like there's like a
yeah.
weird visual joke where he's got like software to um map out the vacation, but it's like there's elements, I don't know how else to explain this. There are elements of like Tetris and Space Invaders and Pong and shit
You're missing
in
the like
the
obvious.
program.
No, you're missing what it was. Okay, it was Pac-Man is what the connection was. The Because he has the whole route planned out on this map, and then the son starts playing Pac-Man and like eating the route. So I guess it was a whole bit to do like that Pac-Man joke, but I thought it was so interesting because I was just thinking how like they've essentially made that app a real thing these days, right? But they, being that entire generation, has also destroyed the context through which like that app would be used. So like
Hmm.
the road trip no longer exists, but we do now have the app that comes from National Lampoon's Vacation. So
Yeah, we have used digital technology to completely solve the problems of the like 1980s,
hmm
but now we have the social conditions of the 2020s.
Right. It's to solve the problems of 1980s films, right? Like not to solve the
Yeah.
actual problems, but we now have like, oh, we're gonna make that a real thing. But in doing so, also we're gonna upend society in such a way that
Yeah.
families
Yeah.
do not take these road trips
And
anymore.
to
We
yeah,
don't,
to be
yeah.
clear, by problems of the 1980s, I mean the minor inconveniences experienced by like a petty bourgeois white middle class,
Yeah. Which has been the
Um,
primary driving political factor of this country for the last 50 years. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 40, 50 years. So, okay, they're going on a
Yeah,
trip. They're
so
going to
and
Wally
they're going to
World.
Wally World. Yeah.
Yeah.
America's favorite family fun park.
Yep.
And obviously a pastiche of Disney World. Doesn't really need to be said, but
Yeah. In the original short story that I'd love to refer back to at some point, also written by John Hughes, they are going to Disneyland.
oh,
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
And I can't when we get to the part with Mr. Wally or whatever his name is, because the story plays out differently than the film here. So I'll love
Yeah.
to talk about that. So yeah, they want to go to Wally World.
And essentially the movie, right, is the story of this kind of like chaotic, honestly, Odyssey-esque, right?
Yeah,
Uh voyage of the Griswolds to Wally World, and they of course are just kind of getting caught in these episodic uh various like entanglements, right? But
yep,
I think what's most important to get across of the majority of this section of the plot, right, is that the Griswolds are essentially going through a like a series of fantastical spaces that represent like the anxieties and fears of like a white middle class, right?
yeah,
They
yeah,
take a wrong turn and they end up in the inner city of St. Louis, and they immediately get surrounded by all these like very offensive stereotypical depictions of like black thugs who of
yeah,
course steal their hubcaps and their
yeah,
cash, right?
yeah.
um they are beset by this supermodel in a red Corvette, right? Who like
Uh huh.
represents like, the temptation of the husband's fidelity, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting that the film goes Chicago to LA, that like the East Coast is simply not a segment. It's simply probably because John Hughes is from the Midwest, I'm gonna assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um but it is an interesting component that it's Chicago to LA is the journey.
Yeah. But I mean that it works, right? Because you're starting
Yeah.
in the middle,
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not starting in like the East Coast version of like an urban population, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In whatever, even if it was kind of an idealized, like ethnic American white population, like in Rocky or something, right? It's like you're
Mhm.
starting not even in Chicago, in the Chicago suburbs, right?
Yeah.
In like the middle of middle America.
Mhm. I do love the scene when they're rolling into St. Louis for the first time and it's showing the car and they're like, "There's the the St. Louis Arch, kids." They're like, "Can we go?" And he's like, "Nope." that was a great little overdub there. So, but yeah, it
Yeah.
gets really racist real quick. Um, but it's also like it's the sort of boomer racist where they can play it off as like because the idea is that Clark Griswold is very naive, so
Mm,
he's like he's just rolling through downtown St. Louis and he doesn't even have any issues because he's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
whatever, I'm just going to ask for directions. With this undertone that it's actually dangerous to do that and you're going to get ripped
yeah.
off. And,
It's a very like it's a very kind of like liberal realist version of racism,
yeah,
because like the film is critical of Clark, right? And like you said, like the idea is like, oh, this guy Clark is ignorant of racial difference in a way,
yeah,
right? Or
hmm
like doesn't really get it, right? He doesn't understand like the economic and social conditions of the places he's going, but at the same time, but in so doing, the message is, yeah, like these places, a realistic person understands you can't go to the inner city because it is
yeah.
a horrifying, dangerous place, right?
Yeah, which is why it is like a perfect boomer piece of cinematography because you have the boomers see themselves as Clark Griswold, right? So like, well, I'm not racist, but also via the film you could see here like I understand that like inner city St. Louis is actually you're going to get mugged by black people if
Yeah,
you go there. So like that you get to have like the best of both worlds like I'm not racist, but also yeah, I'm
yeah.
racist.
Well, because that's the thing, right? It's because this film is really revealing of what a boomer considers common sense, right?
Mhm.
Like, and
Mhm.
it's because it's that is presented, right, not as a political or ideological position by the folks who adhere to it. It's presented as just like being realistic, common sense, right?
Yeah.
Um, and there is, of course, that participates, it feels like, right, in an effort to absolve oneself of the inner city, with so to speak,
Yeah.
as a place that like anyone should care about or do anything about, or that should be invested in, or should be organized or anything, right? It's just sort of
Yeah.
like, oh no, like smart white people know just to not go there.
Yep. So, we continue on. There's various little bits. We don't need to spend time on every one of them. Like they go to Dodge City and like at this point in the film, the note that I made is like all of the planned stops that Clark Griswold has, like they're all gimmicks, right? Like sort of a
Yeah.
Route 66 deal. It's all sort of gimmicky
And the
stuff.
movie like opens, right? The opening credits, which did you realize that American Road song by Lindsey Buckingham was written for this movie?
I was
Or I'm
aware
sorry,
of that.
Holiday Road.
The
Because
holiday,
I always
yeah,
knew that song
it's
because of the
such a
movie, but I
banger.
always thought it was like an existing Lindsey
No,
Buckingham song. That's got
he's
to be
just
one of
that
the best
good.
songs ever written for a movie, right? Like,
I would imagine so. I'm trying to think of
is there
a
a disparity
comparable.
between the movie a song was written for and the quality of a song more?
Mrs. Robinson is a pretty solid one, but here's why it doesn't take the cake because you have that whole like verse where Paul Simon's like do because he just hadn't made it
Also,
up yet,
I have to say,
and
The
they're just like, yeah, well,
Graduate is
let's
a
use
much
it.
better movie than Vacation.
It is, but it's funny that they just like used that track, and Paul Simon was like, "Sorry, I didn't finish the film for your song. Here's this whole
Yeah.
verse like going boop beep bop boop bop ba dee bop," and they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna just use that."
And then they use parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme like 46
Yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah. But I can't. I'm trying to think of any others, and that's yeah, that's what comes
It's
to mind.
definitely up
But
there. It's definitely
listeners,
up
listeners,
there.
let us know. That is, it's. I'm sure there's ones we're not thinking of.
But it feels like the most significant next stop on their trip, though, right, is when they get to Kansas,
Yeah,
to Ellen's cousin's. Ellen is Clark's wife, and her cousin's family, right? Perhaps
yeah,
most iconically, including the her husband Eddie, who's played by Randy Quaid, who does
yeah.
recur as a character in the sequels.
Yeah, you know what I found fascinating is apparently Randy Quaid, his whole approach to the character, which was just supposed to be another one of these bits. Like it wasn't intended to become a iconic character that would repeat in all the vacation films. But he played it off of what he said he recalled a family member of his that was like extremely wacky and conspiratorial, and he based the character off of that person very memorably. But it's very funny because Randy Quaid then became that person later in life, so it's like maybe
Yeah.
something hereditary is going on there, because he
Yeah.
said he based it off a family member that was like that. And
Also, do you know what Randy Quaid's full name is?
please tell me.
At least according to Wikipedia, which the sourcing on this is just his Twitter, which is giving me some pause, but it says he was born Randy Randall Rudy Quaid.
Wow, I mean that would fuck
Triple
you up,
R
right?
Quaid.
That would
Yeah.
sort of fuck you up. He
But
was
this
born
part of the
Randy. He
movie,
wasn't born Randolph like it is Randy.
that's what it says. That's
Wow.
all I can
Okay.
tell you.
Huh.
Um, but this part of the movie, right, is really
Yeah.
about class anxiety, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because this is like essentially a, what the Griswolds would call a white trash family, right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
a poor rural white um population, right? That the Griswolds, right, are anxious about the fact that they could descend to. It's a position that they,
Right.
if they lost their financial independence, they could end up at.
Yeah, because it's you get sort of the implication that the Catherine, Ellen's cousin, sort of like has fallen into this family, and so her class status has fallen, and
Yes.
now she's just spitting out children and
Yeah.
living at this farm in Kansas. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
important because she is the biological relation, right?
yeah.
Um the Randy Quaid character, Eddie, right? He is the Heathcliff, if you will, of the situation, right? Kind of the reverse Heathcliff, right?
Yeah.
And so this part of the movie where they do stay for an extended period, right, to kind of break from the road movie tone of the rest of the movie,
Uh huh.
they are constantly being beset with not just like they're being beset in the other scenes, like, right, with the hubcaps being stolen and the graffiti and stuff, but they are specifically beset with debts in this part of
Mm-hmm.
the movie, right? They're saddled with things, right? Randy needs money, or I'm sorry, Eddie needs money, right? They are
Mm-hmm.
forced to take Aunt Edna
But if you'd like to,
and her
if you'd
dog.
like to, if you'd like to add to Randy Quaid's GoFundMe, we'll provide a link in the show notes because
Yeah.
I'm sure he needs it. But sorry, go on.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, yeah,
specifically things are being put on them, right? So it's like
yeah,
it's again this sense of the boomer drive to like your immediate family and your homestead is the smallest unit of your life, right?
hmm,
You do not have a larger community even to your extended family relations, because if you do, they will suck you dry, right? You need to
absolutely.
stay like the domicile, right? Is how you maintain your economic position in the middle class.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and you even distill it to another level that we'll get into here in a moment. That like it's the individual. Like Clark Griswold portrays himself as sort of burdened by having a beautiful wife and family, right? Like it's
Yeah.
everything that connects you to others is a burden in this film.
Yeah. Which, like, along those lines, what do you make of the depiction of the marriage in this film during this part of it, right? Because obviously there's turns it takes, right? But
Yeah,
his
yeah.
his wife is played by Beverly D'Angelo.
Hmm.
She is gorgeous in this
Yeah.
film, right? Objectively, right? And also like blonde, right? Specifically. But then like Clark is constantly tempted by this woman in a red Corvette played by what is her name? She is a famous model, Christy Brinkley,
Hmm.
right? Kind of serves as this almost kind of, recalling the Odyssey siren of sorts, right? who is
Yeah,
calling
yeah,
to Clark, right?
yeah.
And there's also weird shit where like she's always like Ellen is always like sort of limiting the food that Clark's having. Did you notice this? Like at
Oh,
Eddie's, she's like just eat a bun, you don't get any meat because they don't have a lot. Um or like there's some other time where she like limits what he's eating. So
huh.
it's like it's like despite having this beautiful wife, right? She's limiting your appetites, right? You can't have
Uh.
everything. You can't be the like you can't be capital itself, right? Which just consumes everything and doesn't care and is indiscriminate.
Yeah, honestly, the thing that I thought throughout this film that I was wondering about, and I was Googling after to be like, am I the only one that's ever thought this? Is like, is this literally unnamed woman? Is this a figment of Clark's imagination, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And like eventually they're caught in a pool, spoiler alert, where they're skinny dipping. But the only person that ever actually addresses the fact that he was naked also with a random woman in the pool is his son, where
Yeah, that's
it's
who he has the big kind of confession conversation with.
uh-huh. So I think
Or
that's
not.
interesting. So like the whole film, I'm wondering like, does this exist or is this the sort of boomer-esque imagination of Clark
Yeah.
Griswold that he is this object of desire that is only simply held down by
Yeah.
his, having a wife and kids, but
Yeah.
he would be appealing to this unnamed woman in the
Well, and it makes so much sense, right? That the son is the only one who gets to, even in like a removed fashion, participate in that fantasy and
yeah,
actually like diegetically acknowledge the existence of the woman, right? Because the
yeah,
content of that fantasy is portable to any man who adopts this ideology, right? Because it's a car and it's a beautiful woman and it's an empty seat, right? And it
yeah.
just put yourself in that seat, right? So this is the thing that Clark, because there are all these scenes throughout the movie of Clark taking Rusty aside and giving him, and they're parodies of fatherly speeches, right? They're like,
Yeah,
let me tell you how it is, and it's like undermining him the whole time, right?
yeah.
But this is the world that like Rusty's being like educated in. This is what he's being educated to desire.
Hmm. I'd love to bring back up the unnamed woman when we come to the conclusion of the film, because there was
Yeah.
actually an expanded role for her that was never taken up in the final cut of the film that I think you might find interesting.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah. So, but let's like keep it rolling
Zip
here.
through here. Yeah.
They pick up the great aunt, whatever, Aunt
And her dog.
Edna. Is it Edna?
Aunt Edna.
Yeah. They pick up the dog. What are your thoughts on the dog killing scene, Devin?
Rough. And I
Yeah.
remembered it as I always remember that from this film. It's very visceral, right?
Yeah.
Because they leave the dog, content warning,
Yeah. They Mitt
violence
Romneyed
against
it.
animals, but they leave it a tad. I forgot about that with Mitt Romney. Fuck.
Yeah.
Man, we really do live in an evil world. I mean, I hate it. I hate dog. I know it's kind of like a normie
Oh
opinion,
my
but I do
God.
hate dog
I'm
violence in
sorry. I'm
movies.
sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, because I just had to Google it. It was, let me just read to you the first sentence, the first part of it's the Wikipedia article is Mitt Romney dog incident.
Oh God.
The first 5 words, during a 1983 family vacation.
What? No, no, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me.
I wish that I was, but that's the very
I
first
have
start of
to
this. Incredible. That is
I am
incredible.
independently verifying that these are also, and that's literally you could just call this movie during a 1983 family vacation, comma.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
My God.
Yeah.
Fucking
Seamus.
horrifying. Just
Yeah.
absolutely horrifying
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Um
surrounded by monsters. So yeah, but he ties up the dog on the bumper, forgets it's there, and it
yeah.
gets, killed. Um
Yeah, hate that part.
yeah, yeah. They almost cut that from the film, but the I think John Hughes and Harold Ramis like fought for it because like, no, 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 we need to keep that
I
scene.
mean, I also think it's important, right, though, because as much as I hate it personally, as much as I was talking about all the debts they take on during that scene in that sequence in Kansas, right? It's
Hmm.
equally important that as soon as they leave, they just immediately completely disregard all of the responsibility they've taken on and
Yeah.
end up essentially at net zero because this movie, right, is about the middle American who will literally just like abandon anyone for any reason whatsoever if it even minorly convince or if it even minorly inconveniences him, especially if money is involved, especially if it's costing
Mm.
him money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. We have various other bits. They get lost in Arizona. They like fly off a closed road. And there's one scene where then Clark goes like through the wilderness to get help, just like off into the Arizona
Yeah,
wilderness.
yeah.
And probably the most apropos quote from the whole movie is there's like a couple of Native Americans on horseback
Mm.
that just look at Clark Griswold and go, "What an asshole."
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like that to me is that
Yeah, yeah.
they could have written the whole episode for us with
Yeah.
that
I
quote.
mean, that's
That's
basically
yeah.
the movie, right? It's like white Americans, what especially white middle class Americans, right? They're not the best people, certainly, but they're also not the worst people, but they're just assholes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just like you should be worse or better. There's no reason to be this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also my favorite line, which is like when he wanders back to the gas station, like
Yeah.
or not
Yeah.
back, but he wanders onto a gas station and as he's arriving, his wife is on like a payphone with the cops, and she's saying something along the lines of like, I don't know his height and weight. I just know that he's a saint with children and a genius with food additives. Which is the like I guess is that like his job? Like is
That is, yeah. Yeah, they refer to that multiple times. He's a food processing salesman.
Oh man. That's funny. Which like that's
Yeah.
also funny, right? Because that's such
Yeah.
a boomer ass job of like you're just
Absolutely.
moving capital around, man. You're not actually doing anything.
Yep.
You're not
But you
producing
feel
anything.
like you're a integral part of society, right?
You feel like the
Um
salesman is the ultimate figure, right? Who feels like they are at the center of capitalism and actually they're at way out in the margins.
yeah. Cuz no one else feels like they're at the center of capitalism and are actually way out at the margins. It's just the salesman. Um so there's multiple other scenes. I don't know how much we want to get into like the mechanic repairs their shit and then is also the sheriff and takes all
Yeah,
their
and just
money.
steals all their money, right? Which I
Yep,
think we'll talk
classic
later
sheriff
about some
shit.
of the upshot of that. But
Yep, they go to a hotel, they won't cash his check, and then he steals all the money from the register.
and this is where
I
things start to take a turn for him, right? Is when
yeah.
he starts ripping people off. He starts
Hmm.
conning people. He starts stealing and eventually resorts to violence, right?
Yeah, the thing that I wrote down a note here as this was all happening here, where I said every human is reduced to a commodity in relation to Wally World time, right?
Yes.
They simply become how
Yeah.
what is your relation to me getting time at Wally World?
Yeah. You know how there's like the famous Marx equation of like M dash, C dash M prime, money, commodities, money prime, right?
Yep.
The circuit of capital, as it were. It's like the M here is me. And then, at the other end, you have a W for Wally World.
Yep.
And everything in between those two letters is just a way of getting from one to another, a way of turning that M upside down.
Absolutely. Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself. They keep rolling along. He unravels as a human being, Clark Griswold. That's where he has that line. This is no longer a vacation. It is a quest for fun. He has a profanity laced outburst at his family because they want to essentially give up on Wally World. And he's like, we've come all this way. They have the skinny dipping scene with the unnamed woman. And eventually, though, they get to LA, right, Devin? And they get to Wally World.
Yeah. and they're the first people to arrive.
And I don't know
They
how,
they
like, I knew the film, so like
hmm
this is probably because I knew it, but like you notice as they're coming in, the entire parking lot is empty. You're like, well,
Yeah, I
maybe it's
mean it's
because
very obvious
like a
knowing how,
cheap
but
film, so maybe who knows? But like you see, like, so
yeah,
yeah,
you're getting, and they park like weirdly far away to emphasize the
yeah,
emptiness of the parking lot, right? And it
yeah,
turns out that Wally World is closed.
yeah. Wow.
And, this is a big like vacation can't happen in the post internet society moment, right? Like
Sure.
in the Disney adult sort of like, here's how to hack your Disney vacation
Yeah.
world.
Also, could you imagine Disneyland closing for 2 weeks? Could you imagine them doing that? Like, it's that's
Yeah,
simply
yeah.
that
Oh
this
man,
that the
that's
world
another.
will
You've just
end.
made me
Disneyland
realize.
will not close.
But you've just made me realize, right? Grandfather of the pod, Frederick Jameson, his famous quote that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It would be easier to imagine the end of the world than Disney World closing, right?
Mm,
So this is the ultimate boomer anxiety that undergirds every other fear and anxiety we've talked about in the film around
mm,
race, around gender, around the family, around sexuality, around class and income, right?
mm-hmm,
It's that the entire system could stop.
mm.
That circuit of capital could stop, and then think of all the sunk costs, right? In your 401k, in your home equity, right? Even
Yeah,
if you think you're a liberal, right? Even if you think you're a leftist, right? You have a material investment in the continuation of the system. It
yeah.
actually is good for you. And that is sort of the contradiction, right? Of the bourgeois, right? Their short-term interest is with capital, even if their long-term interest isn't.
Yeah. So Clark goes and buys a BB gun, and he uses it to pretend it is a gun to stick up the guard played by John Candy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who plays the other guard, the black guard that he awkwardly like has him do dog. That he's like roll
Oh yeah,
sit down.
that's real
Yeah, it
bit.
was a
That's
little.
that's
It's like
bad.
why did this need to make the final cut? But there's a second
That's
black guard that
Frank
he makes
McRae.
do.
It looks like.
Okay, had him do like dog commands essentially. It was not great. But so then they take John Candy hostage and go on all the rides. They're picked up by the police. Like the police surround them. The SWAT team comes, but then also Roy Wally arrives and is essentially like, "Well, I'm not going to press charges." And so they fly home, haha, in their like
Mm-hmm.
Wally World hats and everything, and that's the end of the film.
Yeah, and like it basically the film more or less ends with the fake Walt Disney laughing.
Yeah, he and Clark Griswold got what he came out to do, which was go to Wally World with no repercussions, despite the trail of destruction, despair he has left behind him. So
Yeah.
he
And
gets
what
his
is
Wally
that
World
if
vacation.
not the white male suburbanite who like wakes up in the morning, emotionally abuses his wife, gets in his car, like almost kills several people by like violating various traffic laws, right? Blah 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 throughout the day, somehow ends up back in bed at the end of the night, no worse for wear and having actually thrived, right? Despite basically just being a criminal from the moment his eyes opened at the beginning of the day.
Yeah,
And then capitalism itself will come out and shake your hand.
absolutely. Well, you know how it was originally supposed to end.
I don't.
They didn't get into Wally World, so he drove to Roy Wally's house and essentially stuck up Roy Wally and was like, "Be like, you get dance for me. You're gonna take me to Wally." And so essentially, what happened though is the unnamed woman shows up, and she's actually Roy Wally's daughter. and convinces him to drop the charges. So he does. And so then they fly, they're able to leave and fly back, but then he hijacks the plane for some reason because he actually is having a mental break. And they apparently showed this to test audiences, and the test audiences are like, "What?" So they recut the entire last part of the film
Oh
based
man.
on negative reception.
I
To
got to be honest,
how
that
that
is a
went.
good change. That sounds awful. Like that sounds like the ending as is weird, but it kind of, it thematically kind of tracks.
Yeah.
Like that sounds fucking like why does he hijack the plane?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's too cute too. With the daughter, I don't
Yeah.
like the woman in the Corvette being a real person, right? Like even if I'm not saying she's even a
Yeah.
figment of his imagination, right? But she can't be like she has to only exist as like this like threatening fantasy. She can't become
Mhm.
like, oh, she has like a dad and like a social security number and like.
So now that we've concluded discussing the film, Devin, you know what time it is.
It's time to listen to the people, or as it were, you.
Yes, but luckily I am Vox Populi.
I like how this game started. Like it has this name because it started as like, specifically based in like IMDb reviews and other
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, ostensibly populist sources. And now it's just like what we call anytime we do a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the way it goes. Well, here's what we're gonna do, Devin. This film famously stars one Chevy Chase. So we're gonna do a little quick quiz game that I call Who, What, When, Where, Why, Chevy Chase. And here's how it's gonna go. I've got 5 questions.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah. I abbreviate it to WWWWWCC. Um, and the way that it'll work, I've got 5 questions about the who, what, when, where, why of Chevy Chase. I'm going to ask you them, and I'm going to rate the quality of your response between a 0 and a 20. So you can
All
see how
right.
you can earn 100% or you can earn a 0 or anything in between. So let's see if you can get a passing score. Aiming for what are you aiming for, Devin? What grade? What letter grade are you aiming for with this?
Let's go for a B minus. I would feel good about a
Okay.
B minus.
Okay, and at your institution, would that constitute an 80 or higher?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're aiming for an 80 or higher.
Which, as I
We're
always
gonna
tell my students, that's the fifth highest possible grade.
Okay. Oh, we're going F, D minor, D plus,
Well, fifth
C.
highest. So A minus, B plus, B minus. Fifth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there you
You
have
know?
it. There you have it. That's quite
So your
a
top five.
qualitative way of looking at it.
Your
Absolutely.
top five.
Yeah. Why do they skip E? Why do you think they go right from F to D?
Because they were so tempted by having F correspond with fail, but they got impatient. They were like,
They worked their
we
way up. They're like,
can't
oh
get.
shit, we we end at B. We can't end at
Yeah.
B. We have to end at A. So
Yeah.
we got to. What letter's gonna get the cut?
Because we for some reason have decided as a society that succeeding at something means doing at least 66% of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you do two-thirds of a job, that technically constitutes a success.
Absolutely. Easily. Yeah. Well, let's see where you end up, Devin. All right. Who, what, when, where, why? Chevy Chase. Let's start with the who. Devin, Chevy Chase
Mhm.
is importantly not Chevy Chase. Chevy's just a nickname. What is Chevy Chase's actual full name?
I don't know about
For
full
full
name,
credit, I'm gonna need first, middle,
but
last, just
I
so you
I
know.
have I feel like heard his at least first name before, and I want to say it's like Cornelius or something.
Okay.
Um, but I couldn't possibly guess on the middle and last, so I'll just say like
Let me give you a hint.
Cornelius.
I'll give you a hint because you're gonna need the first, middle, and last for full 20 points. Each question's worth 20 points. I mention that because that's part of the game. Um,
Yeah.
it's CCC, just so you know. So what
Hmm.
do you think? What do you think here?
I'm just gonna say Cornelius Chevy Chase.
Okay. Devin, I'm gonna give you 15 out of the 20 points here because his first name is Cornelius.
Hell yeah.
His second name isn't Chevy. It wasn't just a matter of him taking his middle name as his first name. His middle name is Crane. Cornelius Crane
Hmm.
Chase.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I knew it couldn't have been, but I couldn't think of what possibly to guess. He does
That's
have a bit
fair.
of the Ichabod about him, though, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. So let's move on to the what. And based on what you earlier said, I think you're going to nail this one, but it would be really great if you didn't. Um, National Lampoon's Vacation was Chevy Chase's biggest hit upon its release in 1983. From where did the National Lampoon brand originate?
So it was the Harvard comedy magazine,
Yes, I'm
like the
going
student
to.
comedy magazine.
Yeah, I'll give you the full 20 points for this. So, National Lampoon was started in 1969 by Harvard graduates and Harvard Lampoon alumni Douglas Kenny, Henry Beard, and Robert Hoffman. Here's God, I hate this so much. You know that they in 1969 when they started National Lampoon, they licensed the name Lampoon for the publication. So like Lampoon became a licensed word like you
Give
shouldn't
me a
be able to do
break.
that. Lampoon is just a word.
Yeah. Did you have the moment in your youth where you like you had a moment when you were very, very young, and I'm talking like, like 5, 6, like I'm
I did
talking
have a
down
moment
there.
like that. Yeah.
But you're like, oh, Harvard's where like smart people go. Maybe one day if I work really hard, I could like go to Harvard. And then like you
Mm.
realize it's all just sort of like rich pedophiles.
Yeah, well, let me tell you that that's a great lead into what I think is really important context that shapes what we've been saying about this film and what I think is good to know. PJ O'Rourke, who was editor in chief of the National Lampoon magazine, let me tell you how he described their brand of humor. He said, quote, "What we do is oppressor comedy. Woody Allen says, I'm just a regular schmuck like you. Our kind of comedy says, I'm okay. You're an asshole. We are ruling class. We are the insiders who have chosen to stand in the doorway and criticize the organization. Our comic pose is superior. It says, I'm better than you, and I'm going to destroy you. It's an offensive, very aggressive form of humor."
Man, that is a real
Oh.
case of like they just tweeted it out, you know?
You can't say that. Yeah.
But that's
I
fucking,
yeah.
it is actually crazy what an articulation that is of still today,
Mhm.
any kind of sort of like right wing ideology or like pro capitalist ideology, like explicitly pro capitalist ideology
Yeah.
that brands itself as somehow like alternative or like comedic or,
Yeah.
satirical. Like it just sounds like a fucking stand-up comedian today complaining about like I don't care about cancel culture.
Yeah.
But also like with $1 billion.
It reminds me of like the what Mark Maron describes as the what is it, the monoculture of free thinkers.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like the idea that you have the spokesman of free thinking that is hilariously sort of appealing to authority in who he is to essentially get forth the point he wants to make, which is essentially I'm an asshole, but everyone else should feel bad about it. Um,
Yeah.
that see, it is wild that when I saw that quote, I'm like, I don't believe he said that, but he did. So
Yeah.
we've got it written down. Um, Devin, it's looking pretty good for you. 35 out of 40. And if I were to say calculate that, that puts you at a not simply a B minus, but Devin, a B plus.
Oh yeah.
Um, but we're just getting started, and by that I mean
Mhm.
we have three more questions left. Let's get
It's a
to we
long
did the who, the
semester.
what, we got the when. Devin, in 1993, Fox went all in on having Chevy Chase fill the late night void left by Johnny Carson's retirement. They gave Chase a $3 million deal. They spent $1 million renovating the Aquarius Theater in Los Angeles. And Devin, they even renamed the theater to the Chevy Chase Theater prior to the release of his show. However, the show was an immediate failure, with Time magazine saying that, quote, Chase tried everything, succeeded at nothing. Devin, the question I have for you for the when is, how long was the Chevy Chase show on the air?
Oh man, that's a good one. I don't know. I have heard about this disastrous talk show before, and I think I knew about that in his career arc, but I didn't realize. So he took over the Tonight Show
No, it was
specifically.
Fox. Chevy Chase show was on
Oh, okay,
Fox,
so it was
but
an
they were
independent
trying to
show.
fill the
Yeah,
void. They're
yeah.
like, well, Johnny Carson retired. Let's
Got it.
Fox
Got
is
it.
going to be the new place.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I did know he had a failed show, but
Let
for
me
a
say,
second I thought,
there's a bit of a history about who followed Johnny Carson. There's
well,
a
that's what
there's
I
a
was gonna say.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, wait, was there this weird like 3 days I didn't
No,
know about where
that
like
was the
Chevy
A
Chase?
plot. The Chevy Chase show was like the C plot of what's happening while that's going on.
It would
So
actually
yeah.
be really funny to make a movie. You know that movie that's I forget what it's called. It's called like Late Night Wars or something, but it's like
Mm.
about the like Letterman, Leno
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
It would be really funny to make a movie that was about like Chevy Chase during that.
Yeah.
Just like what he was
Yeah.
doing and like him watching that play out on TV.
Yeah.
So this is a great question because it's like, as you're noting, because I have no idea, right? So I'm going purely off like what makes sense to me to guess, right?
Yeah. You know it was
So
canceled.
yeah, it obviously didn't last a long time. It was obviously a huge disaster from the jump, but like so has Bill Belichick at UNC been, and he's still
True.
hanging on, right?
Yeah.
When
Sunk
you've
cost.
made a huge exactly, when you've made a huge investment, right? When you've made it and I got to be honest, my dude Chevy, you can't be recording the Chevy Chase show from the Chevy Chase auditorium. That's just a bad look.
You haven't earned that. You have not earned that distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we record our podcast from the Neil Young Archives.com studio
Yeah, yeah,
at the
yeah.
You're Tall, but I'm standing in front of you, like, company lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Neil Young Archives.com is just one of the things we do here.
Yeah, Neil, again, you've got that reserved parking space. It sits empty, but it's ready for you. Right in it's near the front. It's not as close as ours, but it's really close to the front. We'd love you to come to headquarters.
Talk about sunk cost, man. Can you
So,
believe we made all of the like tables in the cafeteria shaped like that weird triangular MP3 player he invented? Like that was expensive. You don't need a table to weigh 600 pounds of like solid metal.
Uh,
Why didn't we just make them hollow? But so I'm trying to think like what, but I feel like it has to be less than a year.
yeah.
So am I guessing like what exactly am I guessing? I'm guessing how many episodes aired, essentially.
I have both the duration and time and how many episodes. So like I will whatever you want to choose for your unit, I
Yeah.
can
But
probably
we're not
work with.
talking what I mean is we're not talking from like announcement to announcement. We're talking
No,
like
like
the
how
length of
long?
time the show was
Yeah,
literally on
yeah.
the
How
air.
long it was on the air? Yeah, yeah,
Uh, I'm gonna guess God, I want to say 3 months, and I'm like, that both seems like it could be way too much. It could be not nearly enough,
yeah.
or you know,
Yeah.
fuck it. I'm just gonna go with my gut and say 3 weeks.
Yeah. How dare you? It lasted 5 weeks, Devin.
Oh man, thank God I didn't say 3 months.
So I'm gonna give you half credit on this. I'm gonna give you a 10 points out of 20.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Um
You're giving me 10 out of 20 when the
yeah.
guess encompassed all numbers, and I was 2 weeks off.
I never said the guess encompassed all numbers. Maybe I could have given you negative points if you guessed outside of the range. So
I think that's a harsh grade,
I
man.
think it is, but it's objectively how the game works. It's simply it's not. There's nothing qualitative about this decision. Um, but I'll tell you what, Devin, because you're a little worked up about being off by, we're talking double digit days, right?
Yeah.
I'll bump it up if you can tell me who they originally wanted to offer the late night show to.
So before Chevy Chase,
Yeah, and here's I'll even narrow it down: musician.
musician,
Yeah,
and
primarily known musician was the
this is 1993.
correct. And this person turned it down and eventually went to Chevy Chase.
A musician who would host a late night show.
Yeah.
What the fuck? A musician. Who's a musician that people like listened to talk? It's not like Lyle Lovett.
No, it certainly is not.
Who was it?
Yeah, Dolly Parton.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it sort of makes sense,
Yeah,
right? And it also makes
that's
sense why
it.
she would be like, I'm good.
Yeah,
So,
but what a
um,
pivot.
yeah, like, well, Dolly's out. Let's go on to choice two. Me chase.
That's sort of what's
Um,
fucked me is I was trying to think of someone who was roughly equivalent to Chevy Chase.
yeah, yeah. Devin, you're at a 75%. Still a strong showing here. But I had to knock you down since you keep answering the questions correctly. Let's go on to the where. Well, if we're talking where in Chevy Chase, well, there's no other where to talk about than Chevy Chase, Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Um, Chevy Chase is confusingly also a town in Maryland from just outside of DC. Importantly, it is not named after Chevy Chase, the
Hmm.
person, but both Chevys have a common origin in their names.
Yeah.
What is the origin from which the Chevy Chase's names derive?
It's like he's like a hero. It's like a hero of like an epic poem, I believe.
Mm.
I believe it's a Scottish poem, but
Mm.
it's like, he's like one of those kind of like epic poet figures like El Cid or something. Or like
Yeah.
Beowulf even.
Devin, I'm going to give you 15 out of 20 for this because you mentioned poem, you mentioned Scottish. Your characterization of an epic hero is, I think, maybe a little sets you back a bit. So I will tell you that both names refer to a 14th century skirmish between an English hunting party led by the
Fair
Earl of
enough.
Northumberland and
Yeah.
the Scottish Earl of Douglas. The English party happened on the Scottish Earl's chase or hunting land in the Cheviot Hills, so Chevy Chase, and apparently pretty much everyone died in the skirmish. So it seems like the perfect thing for the English to then write a ballad about and then just start naming towns after in colonial
Yeah.
America. But not exactly heroic, more like we led a hunting party on this other dude's land in another country, like in the country north of ours, and he got angry and fought us, and we all killed each other. So not the most heroic thing. Um,
Yeah,
but
I gotta be honest with you.
yeah,
I definitely like knew this was called like the Ballad of Chevy Chase, and that it
yeah,
was this like English or whatever, like, British ballad. And I
yeah.
never looked further into it, and I just kind of assumed, well, if they named like a guy after it, that probably means he like was a guy in the story. But
Yeah, you'd think, but Chevy again comes from the Cheviot Hills, most likely in southern Scotland, and Chase is a private hunting ground. So I thought this was very interesting based on what I know about Chevy Chase, the person. His stepbrother John was quoted as saying, well, Chevy once told me that people who defined themselves in terms of their ancestry were like potatoes. The best parts of them were underground. I like that. I like that. He disdained the pretension of his mother's side of the family as embodied by her mother, Caddy, who nicknamed him Chevy. Because Chevy gained his nickname from his grandmother based on the Ballad of Chevy Chase, as you mentioned, since he was a descendant of the Scottish clan Douglas. So that's where it came from. And I thought it was so interesting, Chevy being like, oh, pretension. It's like, you're Chevy Chase. Like that's your whole thing. So interesting.
yeah.
There you go, Devin. 15 though. 15 out of 20, not too shabby. So that means that you are sitting currently at a 75% total.
Still, I didn't raise myself at all.
Let me explain how averages work. You were at a 75% before, you got a 15
Damn.
out of 20, which is 75%. If you get an additional
Very
score
harsh
on the
grading.
mean,
It's just very harsh
it's
grading,
just it's
you
just
know.
subjective. I wish I could do more, but it's simply objectively how the points fall. But this is your chance to get that B minus, Devin, or maybe higher. You know, maybe you'll end with an A. But let's not fool ourselves. Um, we're on to the why of Chevy Chase.
Well, we could be here all night.
I mean, well, we let's be clear, Devin. We have to endure Chevy Chase because he was the breakout star from the first season of SNL. In fact, Devin, he was the very first person to say, quote, live from New York, it's Saturday night in the opening skit of the very first show. So, Devin, my question to you is, what was the opening skit about?
I don't
The very
know,
first
but
skit of SNL. What do you think it
I
was
don't know,
about?
but I think I can tell you what the opening skit of the show Fridays was, which was like a competitor to SNL.
Like the CBS one where yeah,
I
that
I'm
didn't
pretty sure
last.
that's the one where like they did the bit where like everyone was pretending to get high and then like Andy Kaufman freaked out.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. Andy Kaufman famously like fucked up that entire show,
yeah.
but
And I can
no,
also
this
tell you that I believe Andy Kaufman was the musical guest on the show, doing his Mighty Mouse
really.
routine of the first SNL. I think so.
He
And I only know this
no,
because
no,
it's in
you're
Man in the
incorrect. You
Moon.
are very incorrect. If I don't have it up in front of me, but I believe the first host was George Carlin and the first musical guest wasn't it Paul Simon? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Apparently, it was Billy Preston,
Oh
but
wow, that's cool. Okay. Well, don't
I don't
okay.
know why I think it's Andy Kaufman.
Well, he was on, I think, maybe one of the first episodes doing Mighty Mouse. I just don't think it
Okay,
counted
he
as the
is in the
musical
first
guest.
episode doing the
Yeah.
Mighty Mouse
Yeah,
thing.
that's just that's
So,
not the musical guest. Yeah.
but I assumed that was I assumed that was the musical guest.
Yeah.
Anyway, what is the opening
Anyways.
sketch about? I don't know. Fucking like Nixon fucking a turkey. I don't fucking know.
Interesting. Okay. Is that your final answer? They did the
Sure.
topical political sketch for the very first sketch. That's what you, I mean, that is, I will say, this does fit. I know you text me every fucking weekend, and like right at Saturday nights, you say, you watching SNL? Did you just see that sketch about the Trump administration? Hilarious. These
Yeah.
guys are crooks. Every fucking
That's
weekend,
not true.
it gets really tiresome, and you're like,
That's really
LOL,
not true.
incredible impersonation by whoever is the person of the week. Anyways,
Dude, I'll
okay.
always remember like one of the first times this was like an ex-partner, one of the first times I met their mom. She just like said to me like, "Did you see SNL like last weekend?" And it was like I think it was like right after like Trump got elected or something, and I
Oh
was like,
god.
"No," and she was like what's her name came out as Hillary Clinton and played Hallelujah,
Yeah.
and she just looked me right in the face, and I was just sort of like. I, I
Yeah,
was
that ought to
essentially
do it.
avant la lettre. I was doing the I'm hearing about this for the first time thing, where I was just sort of like, all right, that's a fact. That's a factual event that you've told me about.
Oh my
Interesting.
god, I forgot they did that. That's it's just incredible.
Everyone, it's funny. You don't hear about that much because everyone who watched that live has since died. It's an under
Yeah.
reported story.
Yeah. Well, let me like make this a little easier, Devin. Like what do you think are like the themes of the opening sketch? Give me some ideas of what you think the themes would be. The very first sketch of SNL.
The theme, I don't know, like city shit,
Mm-hmm.
like some kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird like customer service
Mm-hmm.
interaction or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a guy's trying to like buy something at a convenience store and some like a white guy playing like a like oddly racist depiction of an uncertain ethnicity is
Uh-huh.
like struggling to communicate with him. And then like the guy's like, it's all this like looking at the audience like, can you believe what I'm dealing with here? And like he's being skeptical of like the guy's cash and if it's
Mm.
real,
All right, Devin, let me
things
read to
like
you.
that.
Let me tell you what the sketch was. In the sketch, head writer and brief cast member. I love how like in Wikipedia they said brief cast member. That's so fucking rude. Brief cast member Michael O'Donoghue plays an English instructor teaching the language to John Belushi, an immigrant. Belushi has to repeat all of the instructor's lines, but for no particular reason, they're all about Wolverines. O'Donoghue only gets 3 sentences in before he suffers a heart attack, gasps, and collapses to the floor. Belushi, still in repeat mode, mimics him. Chevy Chase, dressed as a stage manager, comes in to find the two comedians on the floor and closes out the sketch with live from New York. It's Saturday night. Devin, I'd like to give you, for the spirit of what you described as a sketch, a perfect 20 out of 20. That it involves some weird thing with an immigrant and like vaguely racist. Um, and that I'm gonna give you a perfect score for that one. So, how are you feeling, Devin?
Fine.
You
I
When
think
we add
like
it all up, yeah,
I was at 75 and now I'm getting another 100, so that'll up that. But getting from 75 to 80, that's a big step. So,
it
it depends
is.
on if there's some rounding, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's almost as if the on the fly thinking was done by someone who teaches math. And so I think that where you ended up, you scored 15 out of 20 on the first round, 20 out of 20 on the second, 10 out of 20 on the third. That was a rough round for you. Uh, 15 out of 20 on the fourth, and 20 out of 20 on the fifth, which means you ended up at a cool 80 out of 100, which, Devin,
Oh my
that puts you
God.
at the fifth highest score possible, letter
Well, that's
wise.
not true. I'm
B
not sure.
minus. Yeah, that's
Well,
a
I
B
guess. Oh,
minus.
if we're then converting to a letter at the end, and like an 80 is the same score as an 81, then yes, it is the fifth
I'm sorry,
highest
does your
possible
institution
score.
only give a B minus if they score 81 or higher?
No, I just didn't realize the final score was being given out in letter grade. You know,
I asked you
of
what
this
letter grade
game.
you wanted. You said B minus,
Yeah.
and frankly, you at the very lowest possible, you did score a B minus, Devin.
Hell
So
yeah, brother.
yeah. So I
Feels
hope you
good.
feel accomplished. Um,
I'm gonna cash out, and I'm
yeah,
gonna take that my winnings on the road. I'm going
fantastic.
to
Well,
Wally World.
welcome, well done, Devin. Well played with the who, what, when, where, why of Chevy Chase.
4W2C. Man, for some reason, this bourbon and Coke kind of tastes like bubble gum.
Ooh,
It is a diet. It's a diet Coke.
still though, huh?
So, Ethan, this movie is a journey, a quest, a trip, a vacation, an odyssey, if you will,
Mm.
across America,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically across middle America, right?
Yeah.
And so I think an important question for us is, what does this film think America is?
Yeah, I think it's to me it's a two-parter of one, what does this film think America is, but also what does this film think, you know, mid 30s, late 30s boomers essentially like 1983 young parents are as well. So like what is America, but also what are Americans of the Clark Griswold type?
Yeah, and specifically, right, these like post World War II
Yeah.
Americans, right? Like, what are they going to be as patriarchs, as parents, right?
Yeah, and it is sort of interesting in how Clark Griswold's whole thing is trying to kind of chase an image that he has of what a family vacation should be in America, the road
Yes.
trip vacation, whereas everyone else has sort of moved past this. His whole family's like, let's just take a plane to get to Wally World. But he's like,
Yeah.
no, the journey is actually really important. This is something ingrained in me. But in terms of like what it says about America, I think it says that America is a grift.
Yeah.
America is a collection of con men that are trying to take advantage of one another. Like that
Yeah.
is the essence of America that this film implies, and I think is not entirely inaccurate. And
Yeah, right?
yeah,
Like the image of America you get here, right, is that everyone from the moment the film starts in the car dealership, right?
mm-hmm,
Everyone is trying to rip you off.
mm-hmm.
And as we also noted while describing the plot, only when Clark starts ripping people off does his fortune start to change.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I think I was trying to think back. Are there any redeemable people in this film? I think the only ones are the Native Americans that save Clark's family from being stranded at their car and take them
Yeah,
back to the. I guess
but
those
even
like
calling them redeemable is a stretch because they're not really characters, right? They're like
Right.
an image of like what is outside white America, right?
Right.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the film doesn't give them interiority or agency or anything. They're just sort of a plot device.
I'm sorry, Devin. I'd like to add one other that I think is I forgot there, which is Roy Wally, the redeemable
Yeah.
American who he's just he's just a pure he's all about the family time.
This
It's
is it's all here, right? Everything we talk about is here, right? This is the essence of the boomer that we're always kind of chasing around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is that America is a con, as you said, right? Everyone is
Mm-hmm.
scamming you, everyone is lying, from the poorest black person in the inner city to the sheriff of this like sundown town, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is on the take, right?
Yeah.
But if you could just get to the man who is at the top of that whole period of con men, you'd realize, well, he always had good intentions, right? He
Hmm.
just wants to run a fun family business.
Hmm.
And it's just that everyone below him, everyone he's hired, right, is just like looking out for themselves and skimming off the top and cheating, right? And so the system, quote unquote, isn't working, right?
Yep.
Everyone except for you, the viewer of this film, right?
Hmm.
Clark Griswold. And if just you and that guy could talk, right? If you and Trump could go into the Oval Office together, right? You would just be completely on the same page. And it's everyone between you and him
Yeah.
that, Trump wants to release the Epstein files, right? He just can't, right? Or
Yeah.
like Trump wants to drain the swamp, but he just can't, right? Or like Jeff Bezos wants to create jobs, but like Democratic mayors won't let him, or labor unions want to interfere with his ability to create jobs, right?
Yeah.
That is the vision of America we've got here, right?
Yeah.
It is a con everywhere, but no one thinks they're the con artist.
Absolutely. It's so interesting to me because, the original story from National Lampoon magazine that this was based off of, it's sort of a different recognition of the con, and how you're describing it is so aptly how it appears in this film. In the
Yeah.
story, in the story, it's there's a few notable differences that I think we need to consider here, and maybe what that says about the film's place in American culture. First thing to note about the story it was based off of is it's not Wally World they're going to. They're going to Disneyland in
Yeah.
California. And it's closed, like in the movie. And so Clark goes to Walt Disney's house where he's having a business meeting and shoots Walt Disney in the leg as Walt Disney's running away from him because he's so pissed off about the park being closed. And so the dad is essentially Clark is sent off to, pending trial for attempted murder, and that's like the end of the story. So I think like that's a notable difference, that he shoots Walt Disney and is
And that he doesn't succeed, right?
no, yeah, he's
Yeah.
angry that the park was closed, and so he reacts with violence, and it doesn't
Yeah.
accomplish anything. But that's an important piece. But the second important piece is that the story and John Hughes's original intention with the movie is that it actually is all from the son's perspective. And so the story
Mm.
was the son recollecting his family's vacation in 1958 to Disneyland. And John Hughes imagined that the movie would also be from the Michael C. Hall character's perspective. And then, of course, when perhaps the coal ground to diamond boomer that is Chevy Chase took on the role of Clark Griswold, the entire film production became, well, this is actually Clark Griswold is the center of this story. And so
Mm-hmm.
Michael C. Hall's character, the son, is kind of cast off, and like you still have some of those scenes where it's like they're talking like you're becoming a man, but it no longer becomes his story, it becomes the boomer's story, right? It's not that
Yeah.
the it's actually hilarious that like Gen X is erased from this story. It's a very
As
Gen
they
X thing to
always
have
are.
happened. And and they're so angry about it that they'll vote for Trump a fourth time if they can. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I thought that's an interesting
The
shift
first
from the
Gen X
movie.
president will
Yeah.
be
Oh
like
god.
89 years old at the time they're elected.
That's funny. We're not gonna have a Gen X president, let's be real. We're
Yeah, you're right.
gonna
We won't have
yeah.
presidents by then.
No, yeah,
Um,
it's just it's gonna be Supreme Chancellor Mr. Beast. Yeah. But anyways, I thought
um,
that was like an interesting aspect of
yeah,
the shift
that
to it
is
as a
very
film.
interesting. And what it's making me think about, though, is the fact that, so on the surface, right, that makes it seem like, and ostensibly on terms of even intent, maybe this is the case, right, that the first feels like a much more kind of biting and cynical kind of takedown of American capitalism, right? Whereas, as much as the film makes these like jokes about the American system, again, it has this kind of out of, but like it gives you the fantasy of actually like resolving those contradictions, right? And getting what capitalism promises you and not being punished, right?
Hmm.
But along those lines, that's why it's so interesting that in the film it can't be Walt Disney. It can't be Disney World, right? And I know there's like pragmatic kind of legalistic reasons for that, but it's also like this film isn't about Disney. It's about the fantasy of Disney, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Roy Wally in this film is who we want Walt Disney to be.
Yep.
And so if it was Walt Disney in the movie, it would, and the movie was exactly the same besides that, it would fall completely flat because you'd be like, he'd never do that, right? But Roy Wally isn't Walt Disney. Roy Wally is who, like, it turns out, right? This is the thing. This is how deep the boomer fantasia goes, right? Is even Disney turns out to be one of the con men, right? And it's like, if only Walt Disney could be replaced by someone who really cares about Disney, who really
Mm.
cares about the characters, as it were,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. It's fascinating because I don't know, like just thinking about vacation as a product that our boomer parents consumed. Like you said, your family called your dad Chevy Chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting they didn't call him Clark Griswold. They literally like, no, you're
Mhm.
Chevy Chase. But what is
Yeah.
Clark Griswold if not Chevy Chase? And so it's fascinating to think about the image that that produces where you really get to have your cake and eat it too, right? It's what we talked about before, that you are not racist and yet you are able to recognize how black folks who live in the inner city are dangerous and are going to rip you off, right? You get to live both of those worlds. You also get to live in the world where I don't subscribe to that Disneyland bullshit, but also imagine a world where that Disneyland bullshit is the reality, and that's the aspiration that we may hold as a society. And so you just get to live in this perfect space where you are constantly above the fray, and like able to
Mm.
see all these issues and
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, because I think what you're pushing us towards, right, is our big question this entire series, right? And this is going to go from this movie to all the other movies we're talking about to Chris
Mhm.
Nolan's The Odyssey, right? Which is
Mhm.
the ultimate question. What does this movie say about vacations, right?
Mm.
What does this movie think a vacation is, right?
Yeah.
And we think about what is a vacation to this movie. On one level, it's like a promise, right? It's a product that's been sold to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an escape from the world of work, right?
Yep.
But it's also a reality you get to live in for a brief period in which you are the main character of the universe. You know, it's like when you're working, you're not the main character. You know, workplace comedies, right, are almost always ensembles, right? You think of like The Office and everything. You know, I know there's kind of like, an ostensible protagonist, like, the mainest of main characters, but they're really about the unit, as it were, right? But the
Yeah.
vacation is where you leave the space of work and you go on a quest. You go on an adventure, right? You have escaped the normal way time works under capitalism, right? And the way space works, right? You get to move from space to space, right? And yet you're still in capitalism because what is this movie? It's episodic, it's repetitions, it's they show up everywhere and the same thing happens, just like going to work, right? Because the
Uh-huh.
vacation is selling you a way to think you're escaping capitalism while you're still participating in it.
Absolutely. That is, yep, there you have it, folks. That is National Lampoon's Vacation. Anything else we need to say about this film, Devin? Because I feel like we've really distilled it down to its dirty, rotting core.
I guess the main thing we haven't talked as much about because we've been focusing so much on Clark and the Boomer Fantasia
Yeah.
is the family.
Ooh, yeah.
We've touched on it a bit, but everything I was just saying about vacations, right? And how you get
Mm-hmm.
to be the main character, though. The other thing about the vacation in the American cultural sensorium is that it's the family vacation. So, like, what do you
Yeah.
think this
Yeah.
film is saying about the family ultimately?
Well, on one hand, I just want to reiterate how because of Chevy Chase, the film essentially became the Clark Griswold story.
Yeah.
And that I think is noteworthy in that it was originally supposed to be more about Rusty Griswold recounting a story than anything else. Um, but it is this I don't know in terms of the family, in terms of the extended family, it's that everyone's a crook and they're all trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
The immediate family, again, it becomes centered entirely around Clark Griswold, where
Yes.
he is this sort of tour de force that has this image of what needs to happen for his family. Like he understands what needs to happen for them to have a good time, and there's sort of obstacles in achieving this. And maybe he's naive, but like I feel like he's presented as sort of naive in a sense of like, but this is we should cherish this naivete, right? Um,
Yeah.
and the
Hmm.
family is an obstacle to much of that, especially the wife, in terms of I don't know, she's just competent and doesn't want to fuck him all the time. Is the general vibe of the film, but she's essentially a villain in this film
Yeah. Yeah.
because she doesn't want to constantly be fucking him and in these like really inopportune situations while they're on the vacation. The daughter, does Clark Griswold say a single line to his daughter? There's literally the one scene
Almost,
where he forgets
if
her
he does
name,
almost
right?
nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
literally is talking to his son. He's like, what's oh yeah, Audrey.
That's low
Like
key one of the funniest moments,
it is
actually.
very
Yeah.
funny, but like he has no connection with his daughter. His son, he simply wants to mold into a man. And so like he his I guess his main interactions with his son are one, let's drink a beer, and two, I was caught skinny dipping with a woman in a pool, so let me explain to you why this is actually okay.
Yeah.
Like,
She was an underwater waitress.
yeah, and like that. So like, it's so self-centered. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. What you're making me think about, right, is that the way the family functions in this movie, and I think it's reflective of the way the family functions in capitalist American political ideology, political, even just life, right? Especially under neoliberalism, right? And Melinda Cooper has written about this a bit. is that the family and the hyper individualistic project of neoliberalism actually work hand in hand, right? And that's how you get the, the sort of like rightward shift to like family values and hyper capitalism, right? And specifically in this movie, it's that the family is the way that you, the presumably white male middle class subject, right, get to be selfish in a way that you get to brand as being selfless, right? Because it's like
Hmm.
you are
Hmm.
constantly making selfish, individualistic, petty, capitalistic, anti solidarity decisions, right?
Uh-huh.
Because of your family, right? But that family that you're doing things for has very little to do with any of the individuals in your family, right? Who, as you know, right, it's like his wife is basically treated as like a villain. His
Yeah.
son is just someone he talks at, and his daughter more or less
Hmm.
doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is also a world in which American progress is assured, right? And you can suck at all of this, and it's okay because there are no repercussions to anything you
Mm.
can
Mm-hmm.
do. And
Yeah.
I think this is most encapsulated, or it's at least very concisely encapsulated in the scene where they're in the Wild West bar, and Clark keeps like being rude to the bartender because he's like, "Oh, we're doing like a bit. It's like an old West bar. I'm in character or whatever." And then the guy turns and shoots a real gun at him, and then his daughter can't hear, right? And the wife goes in a way that feels completely unaware of the repercussions of this, like something along the lines of "Great job, Clark. She's deaf," right? And then it literally cuts to a scene of them in the car, and the daughter's like talking to them from the back and can hear, right? So it's like we're in like cartoon logic, like Looney Tunes logic, right? You can
Yeah.
fall and you can swish into a pancake, and then you're just immediately fine, right?
Yeah, it's
And that
it's
is how this the American family functions, right? Everything's going to work out. Progress is
yeah.
on our side.
Yeah.
Just keep the system churning.
Yeah, that's it's a great point about how nothing it's the movie really is a series of bits. Like, nothing impacts what happens next for the most part. So it
Yeah,
it really just continues on. Yeah.
because the engine of history isn't Clark Griswold. The engine of history is capital.
Wow. I'll be curious how this compares to the Odyssey,
Yeah.
to Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey,
Yeah, which
which I know
that is
nothing
an
about how that's going to go.
adaptation of this, I believe.
I think it's yeah, I think you're right there, but I'll be curious how do they just go along and is it a series of bits, none of which
Hmm.
impact what happens in the future, and then it resolves with no repercussions?
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
curious. I'll be curious.
My prediction is that because Nolan likes to kind of like subvert things a little bit,
Huh.
you don't quite get the film that you're expecting. I bet it's going to be just like Vacation, but actually from Rusty's perspective, just like the John Hughes story, you know. So
Yeah.
it's mostly going to be like the son just like sort of like hanging out in like Greece or wherever the fuck
Yeah. Yeah.
he's from, you
Uh-huh.
know?
I think he's gonna ride back to his hometown and embrace his wife, but the camera's gonna pan over to the horse and really linger on it. And you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, is that another Trojan horse?" And you're gonna be left wondering.
Mm,
And
yeah,
so, who knows? Though I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it pans out. Um,
absolutely. We'll find that
yeah,
out in a few months. But in the meantime, it's time to rate this movie, and we're excited to introduce.
yeah,
Uh, Now that we're on this new mini series format, we're
yeah,
gonna have a new rating system specific to each mini series, as
yeah.
opposed to each season, which was always kind of a nebulous concept of when we decided one ended and another
Uh huh.
began. So, Ethan, tell the listeners about our rating system. for the summer
We're
vacation series.
absolutely. Well, it's going to be on who I think is the vacation king. You know, did it like no one else. Someone that I don't know about you, Devin, but like I'm sort of envious of this lifestyle.
Yes.
Jimmy Buffett.
I mean, Jimmy Buffett is the boomer lifestyle, by which I mean the thing every boomer has to think they're on the cusp of doing,
Right.
right? Which
Yes.
is
Yeah.
just like you actually don't have any worries. You're actually a very chill guy,
Yeah.
and you don't care about much, and you're
Yeah.
just eating cheeseburgers, you're drinking margaritas, and you're just chilling out, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I can tell you how I rated this in terms of Jimmy Buffett's.
Give it to me.
I think out of 4 Jimmy Buffett's, the film was fine, but I was also just repeatedly like, oh man, this is making me think bad things about family life in the 80s when I
Yeah.
was growing up in the 80s and 90s. So I'm gonna give this 2 out of 4. And let me be clear, most of the 2 is coming from when Clark has been wandering through the desert and then like rolls over to that gas station and is like coming in, he's like, who's thirsty? I'm thirsty. So he's going in. That's great. And also when he forgets his daughter's name. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 4. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 4 Jimmy Buffett's cheeseburger in paradise. Because what is National Lampoon's Vacation if not cheeseburger in paradise, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's this whole idea. What are the lines that he says here? This is essentially the Clark Griswoldification of a song, in that most of
Hmm.
it is about ingredients to a cheeseburger. But interspersed are you're sort of like, if you're reading it astutely, you're like, hold up, what is this guy's deal?
Yeah.
um but you're like, but the singer is presenting it as if it's just a song about a cheeseburger, and also he's got some other stuff going on. For my cheeseburger in paradise, making the best of every virtue and vice, worth every damn bit of sacrifice to get a cheeseburger in paradise. Which,
Hmm.
if you're listening carefully, like, this opens up so many questions. But again, the singer Jimmy, he's just going along, right? He's like, hey, this, don't worry about it, we're moving on. I've got some more ingredients on cheeseburgers that I want to sing to you about. Don't worry about all these vices that I just referenced in the lyrics. So that to me is a perfect encapsulation of National Lampoon's Vacation. Just keep moving along, because if you stop to think about it, you're probably going to have more questions than you're comfortable with. What about you, Devin? What would you rate this film?
Yeah. No, I think you're right on the money, to be honest, right?
Okay.
As much as this film was like kind of a part of my childhood, and as interesting as I find the ideology of it to talk about, right? I think we had a very interesting conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just want it to be a little better, you know, like
Yeah.
just on a pure enjoyment level, it's like, you know, I should have been laughing more at this, I just and just
Yeah.
like, the jokes don't really land, and then you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's dissect what was going on in that joke," and it's kind of reflective of a moment in history, a particular kind of guy, right? A particular kind of political outlook.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to give it 2 out of 4 um Jimmy Buffett's, but I'm going to like multiply that by 10,
Wow.
and I'm gonna give it 20 out of 40 Jimmy Buffett's, and specifically the Jimmy Buffett from the song that I've definitely heard before, "A Pirate Looks at 40," which is about a washed up drug smuggler reflecting on the first 40 years of his life, right? And
Uh-huh.
that is what this movie is in a lot of ways, right? It's
Hmm.
the boomer is approaching 40, right? The boomer
Yeah.
who once was like has been the protagonist of the American century, right?
Yeah.
Like the American century born in the wake of World War II, literally the baby boomer is born, right? In the 60s seems to be this like beacon of some kind of radicalism and where history's going, right? And here we are, it's the 1980s, Ronald Reagan is president, and we've capitulated completely, right? And we
Yeah.
can't even really have a crisis about our capitulation anymore like we did in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
The stagnation is gone. It's financialization is booming. Are you going to get on the train or not, you know?
Mm,
And that is to me what this movie is. It's the boomer who it turns out has always been a pirate, has always been a smuggler, has always been a con man, right?
true.
Sort of
True.
looking back at his life, but in a less Buffettian way, perhaps, not seeing himself for what he is, but instead seeing everyone else for what he is, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree with you, except for one point, which to our discerning audience, I want to clarify. Devin said he was multiplying by 10, but as we
10
all
out of
know,
10.
2 to 4 compared to 20 to 40 are actually equivalent fractions. He didn't multiply by 10. He just like simply changed the denominator, the number of pieces we were talking about. So I just want to clarify because I know folks would be pretty upset about that if I didn't.
But here's the thing. This is what you're forgetting. The original conceit of this, right? You are forgetting that it has been canonically established in the podcast history that the individuals we are giving out are literal people, right?
Ooh,
Like I can't remember what actor we were talking about, but we gave a bunch of him to one film, and we were talking about how they were like the dead that guys from the end of the Prestige, right? Just like accumulating in a basement, right? So I
yeah.
am actually giving 20 Jimmy Buffetts, 20 little Jimmy Buffetts that are scurrying around on the
Mm-hmm.
pirate ship as the
Yeah.
pirate looks at 40. And
That's
that
a
is
it's a
different from
yeah.
giving two.
That's fantastic. It's a fantastic point about the difference between equivalence and equality. And so I appreciate that distinction, Devin. Well, there we have it. National Lampoon's Vacation, the first in our series. So it's almost like, Devin, we're going on a journey, on a vacation, and this is the first
Absolutely.
stop on our journey. How are you feeling as we embark upon this extended adventure, having concluded our first act?
I feel great because I know exactly where the car is going, right? We've made it to the West Coast. We've reached the end of Manifest Destiny, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some would say there's nowhere else to go. But we
Yeah.
know that those folks aren't thinking about the American South because
Mm.
our next episode is going to be about Vim Vendor's excellent Paris, Texas,
Mm.
right? So the car is turning around, but it's not going back to Chicago. It's going southeasterly, right? Towards, you know, a different place that the American dream died, as it has died a million and more deaths. And I can't wait.
Fantastic. Well,
How are you
uh,
feeling?
I'm feeling good. Some of these other films, some of them are going to be a slog. I haven't seen Paris, Texas though, so that's going to be like it's always nice to go on a vacation to someplace new, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited to sort of explore that new arena.
Hmm.
Um,
And
and
based on the name, right? Paris, Texas, right? I'm expecting we're going to be getting like opulence,
oh,
excellent
absolutely,
food, right?
absolutely,
5-star hotels,
yeah.
uh thousands of years of history of people that
Mm.
have been in the same place for a really long time and
Oh,
didn't
for
like
sure.
recently show up and
For
displace
sure.
anyone else.
Yeah, and Devin, you know this about me. I love the state of Texas, right? I think it's probably the best American state that there is because of freedom. And so I'm excited to just explore that topography, that geography, that demography, and I think it's going to be a real uplifting nice romp, I guess, if I could anticipate a good romp. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm like Clark
Yeah.
Griswold. I'm like, we're going to Wally World next time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Paris, Texas is kind of like I don't even know why they made a sequel to National Lampoon's Vacation, because Paris, Texas basically already is that movie,
Mm.
and it comes out just a year later.
Oh wow.
So it'll be very interesting, in all seriousness, right? We've been examining this very specific moment in time on this episode, right? And we're gonna
Yeah.
see, what did that almost exact moment in time look like to a fucking German art film director, you know? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Him versus John Hughes.
you
Hell
know,
yeah.
and famously, if we've seen it once, we've seen it a thousand times. A German comes to America in the 20th century, there's two options and neither of them are good. He thinks this is an entirely new place that has nowhere to do with where he came from, or he thinks he thinks it looks a lot like home, and it turns
Mm.
out both are bad. You really want your German to not have to not be interested in what he's seeing whatsoever. He's just like, get me to the
Absolutely.
next stop, you
Yeah,
know?
just get us to the moon, buddy. Okay. And so that concludes our first episode of the Vacation series.
Summer vacation, baby.
Hell yeah.
Can't wait. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for tuning into our Oscars episode. We will see you next time as we continue on to Paris, Texas. In the meantime, check us out at Your Tall Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. I'm at no, you're at Mathesippi.
Correct.
I'm at Stale Cooper.
Correct.
And as always,
hey, keep circling that train.